So somebody in the audience asked a question to John Lennox and Peter Atkins whether they can both change their religion to the other person's religion. That means, Peter Atkins, can you be a Christian? And what evidence you need to be a Christian? And John Lennox, what evidence do you need to be an atheist? I'll summarize these arguments and let's watch the video.
What I'll do is I'll give you both an opportunity to respond to each question, and we'll try and get through as many as we can. I think this is a really interesting one. What new evidence would be sufficient to lead the speakers to adopt the opposite view? So if I perhaps ask that first of you, Peter, yeah. Is there any kind of evidence that John could bring to bear that would actually make you change your mind and think actually maybe there is a God?
I think that's very interesting. I have asked myself that question previously. You know, is there any evidence that would flip me into the belief camp and so on? And I simply can't think of any. I think if I tell myself that if I agreed with some evidence, then it showed that I'd simply gone mad.
Right.
So it's a serious question, but I don't think there can be any evidence.
Are you saying your position is unfalsifiable in that sense?
Yes, because even if I was standing, at the foot of a cross and saw the resurrection before my very eyes, I would put it down to hallucination. It's an extension of the David Hume argument, which you didn't quite complete, because Hume went on to say that there is always more reason to disbelieve the reporter than what he is reporting.
Do you want to make a comment firstly on the fact that for Peter there's literally nothing that could convince him that God exists?
I'm very interested in what he said at the end, that he would believe it was a hallucination. And he mentioned to me before that the psychologists would work on what I say, but they'd work on what he said. And one of the evidences for the resurrection of Jesus actually is the work psychologists have done in pointing out that it could not have been a hallucination. He was seen by over 500 people at once, different times of day or night, and all this kind of thing. But there are things that would reverse me.
Okay, tell us what they are.
I joined Peter. If you could give me evidence that the gospel writers, for example, like Luke, were not authentic, if you could give me evidence that there's a really convincing explanation that Jesus did not rise from the dead, if you could show me that all the experiences I've had in life with my family and with other people that I would definitively put down to the activity of God, then I'd be prepared to consider. But those cumulative evidences in my life are so large that I don't think it's likely to happen. But I have to be open to that. Why? Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, because I come from a very religious country, I was accused, and I've been accused tonight of the same thing, of course you believe that stuff, you're Irish, is the old Freudian explanation. So what have I done? I spent my entire life opening up my Christian commitment to its opposite. It's exactly what I'm doing tonight. And I spent my life doing it. A lot of it in Russia, incidentally, where you meet really hard atheism. And doing that, constantly questioning my own position, has confirmed my position. Now, Peter, do you constantly question your own position? Or do you see no reason to do that?
I see no reason to
Yes,
do
well,
that.
I see great reason to do it because I don't want to be fooled.
But I see in you an example of the power of cultural conditioning that takes place during childhood.
Well, Peter, I could argue the same. You see, the Freudian argument that says the religion is wish fulfillment, it works brilliantly if there is no God. But you see, I would want to argue that if there is a God, Peter's atheism can equally well be explained as wish fulfillment, the desire never to have to encounter God. The Freudian argument doesn't deal with the basic question, is there a God or not? So I simply think
But you see, I want to understand the workings of the world on this side of the grave.
So do I.
You seem to want to understand them on the other side.
But why not of both, Peter? It's a bigger universe than just this side of the grave.
Because there isn't anything on the other side.
But that's just an assertion.
No, it's the lack of evidence.
Well, let's go to another question.
Okay, so that was a super interesting video. I'll just summarize it quick, and if you're atheist, please don't dislike this video. I'm just going to reiterate what Peter Atkins says, and I don't think Peter Atkins is representative of every atheist, but if you're a Christian, please like, share, subscribe so that you can get more information about debates like this that I can help you. So I believe that Peter Atkins obviously said that there is no evidence that he can have to become a Christian. That means no matter what somebody says, he will not change his view of being an atheist. This is actually a very strong atheist position. It's actually a very good atheist position that he's actually subscribing to his atheist worldview very truly, but it is not an open-minded position. It's not an evidence-based position, which is a bit funny because he claims that he is a scientist that looks at evidence-based information. But if he really doesn't believe in evidence-based information, then I don't really know if he's a scientist or not, but clearly he is an atheist. So basically, I think there are people like Peter Atkins as such, that they're atheists. They believe that atheism cannot be falsified, and therefore no amount of evidence can change their mind. And there are some atheists like Peter Singer, Richard Dawkins, all these different people, that their reaction is slightly different. If there's evidence, they will believe it. So let's move on to John Lennox, a Christian. He says that if evidence shows that his beliefs, their faith in Jesus, whatever the writer said in the Gospels or the New Testament is false, then he will be convinced if the argument is strong enough. But as of now, there isn't strong evidence for it. I believe I also subscribe to John Lennox's view that he takes high evidence, high argumentation to decide what to believe in. But there's also people like Peter Atkins that refuse to be open-minded and change his mind regardless, because his worldview of atheism is already true and cannot be falsifiable. So if you like videos like this about apologetics topics, don't forget to subscribe, like, share the video, and I will see you in the next video with Peter Atkins and John Lennox.